Hey everyone, recorded a quick video here on probably one of the most painful topics in the outbound space, outbound B2B space, is how you build quality lists, specifically in very difficult niches, segments, industries. Now, we've had a lot of different processes, a lot of different databases, a lot of different things that we tried, but we've created an SOP, which is basically the definitive guide to building a list where you find 90% plus of your TAM lead list for your outbound campaigns or any other campaigns. This is the only SOP your team will ever need for building lists. This applies for simple lists, simple industries, and something that's much more complex, something offline, something you can't find in online databases and intelligence products like Apollo or ZoomInfo. So by the end of this video and with this SOP, with this process, you will come from being a very frustrated Robert Downey Jr. into the Iron Man he is. So what we will cover in this guide, we'll cover the data fields you can pull, how to find all company data, how to find decision makers, how to find additional data points for lists, and how to find mobile numbers for your decision makers. We've got a diagram here. You can access it here. There'll be a link below the video where you can get these resources. So we will go over this workflow that we have created. We'll go over every step and explain what every step entails. So let's get things started. So number one, what data fields can you actually pull? Now, when you're building a list, you need to ask yourself, how are you segmenting your list? How are you segmenting your prospects, your company's potential clients? And based on that, create a list of data points by which you filter and pool these lists. So for example, you can address the industry, the product service criteria, location. For prospect prioritization, you can use employee count. You can take it off LinkedIn, company size, employee growth. If that's the case, if you're looking for fast growing companies, employee growth over 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, give or take, annual revenue. Not always available, but when you do have it, it is a great data point, even though it's very much up in the air unless you're looking into 10K reports of listed companies. Additional data, you can pull website links, website URL, address, company LinkedIn URL, company phone number, general phone number. And for contact data, what we usually pull are first name, last name, title, email, work phone, cell phone, if applicable, if you can find it, and as well as a LinkedIn profile URL. In terms of targeting, you will need to define what titles you're going after, because remember, you'll be able to probably pull between 1, 2 to 5 or 6 or maybe even more personas from every single company. And keep in mind, different decision makers and stakeholders will require different messaging. So you can pull C-suite, founders, owners, CMOs, chairmen, sales directors, etc., etc. Define what you want to exclude from the list. For example, vice president titles. I handed out left and right. You probably want to exclude those in large companies because VP title might not mean a lot. Now let's get to the actual workflow. Finding company data. So we pull data based on a number of sources, right? If you're talking about very difficult industries, ones you can't really find or having difficulties finding on platforms like Apollo or ListKit or ZoomInfo or something else, you are likely to resort to Google search queries to find databases and registers. You look up at the SIC and NAICS codes, Dun & Bradstreet, as well as intelligence reports like IBISWorld to first assess the TAM before you go into scraping the databases. When you're scraping the databases, we use different scrapers, whether it's IDS, which is Instant Data Scraper, Clay. We can use some on Upwork, Apify, or as funny as it may sound for some websites, we just do straight up copy pasta, right? We clean our lists in Clay. Clay is our main playground for all enrichment, handling our lists, managing our lists. Sometimes it can be Google Sheets. And we also use the help of a GPT OpenAI GPT AI to help us clean, sort, and enrich our lists. So how do we actually find lists of companies? Let's go into a few very specific examples. Um, First, we need to, again, identify the total addressable market. If you haven't watched the video on total addressable market, go watch it now, come back here, and resume the video. You can use Google to find SIC codes, NAICS codes, databases like DNB to find and size up your market. We use Google queries to start looking for lists. For example, number of home builders in the United States, list of legal professional services companies in the UK, list of licensed hedge funds in the state of New York to get us started. Some of the local searches can be used and scraped with the help of Google Maps and an IDS, or Clay. They've got a native feature for scraping local businesses as well. Now, going into multiple sources to amass the data and create one single list of your companies, because we want to find a list. We want to create a list of companies that's exhaustive to your town, right? All the companies that we can possibly reach out to at the very start of our outreach. Now, what we use is, again, resources like NAICS codes, SIC codes, Dun & Bradstreet. We use list brokers like Smart Scrapers, IBIS World Reports. We look at online directories, registers, financial regulation websites, if that's the case for ICP, company registers like the Companies House in UK or Ontario Securities Commission, etc. And obviously data sites like Apollo to cross-reference our approximate TAM. And when it comes to scraping the lists, very difficult lists, again, using IDS, scraping of the websites. If you don't have enough data in Apollo, ListKit, or any other data intelligence source, sometimes you can use Clay, if that makes sense, together with Google Maps to scrape for local businesses. Otherwise, you can also use IDS with the manual map search in Google Maps as well to find local business results and put those into CSV, which you then upload into Clay for further processing. Sometimes, again, like I said, it's the good old copy pasta into a spreadsheet or into Clay. Now, building your comprehensive list of companies, like the first minimum data requirements are the company name and company URL. If you have those two data points, you can then go on and find all the other data points such as employee numbers, revenue, industries, segments, and then obviously find decision makers as well. We got a few prompts here from Clay that we used in the past. You have a look at this document here. How we prompt the Clay AI agent. Sometimes we use Clay Agent Neon. Most of the time we use our API key with OpenAI to let our AI agent work and do the work for us on the research side. Now, a lot of databases are built different. So we created a small table here to show you which databases you can actually use to pull what kind of data on the company level, right? So let's compare LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Clay, and Apollo. We would like to get these data points, LinkedIn URL, number of employees, employee range, employee growth, revenue, address, phone, general email, and create a kind of a table. I think this is supposed to be actually a green. You can already get the LinkedIn URL from Clay data. Number of employees, and you can see you have to use multiple platforms to create a holistic picture of your TAM. Otherwise, you will end up with missing data. Once you have the data from multiple sources for each company, we combine all of that in our Clay tables before enriching for contact data. Which brings us to the next point, which is the retrieving company and contact data round one. We use multiple sources to do that, to enable us to create these comprehensive lists. We use Apollo. We export everything into CSV to clean company data. The Apollo actually has a free company extract function. If you're extracting prospect data, we use something like Find Email, which I think works the best out of all providers on the market. Sometimes we'll use Apollo credits as well. For additional contacts, we also use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, plug in the parameters of our companies, of our contacts, and extract them either through Scrap or again through Find Email. Once we have all of this data, we combine them all in our workflow in Clay, which we use to clean the data, sort the companies, and then put the companies through a workflow where we use Lead Magic, Prospio, ICPs, Datagma, Find Email to enrich the contact list with first name, last name, emails, phone numbers, etc. Once we have their emails, we'll put the contact emails through something like Neverbounce or Million Verifier to make sure that there's that we can deliver these emails. I think Find Email has that feature off the get-go, so they actually extract and verify emails. You can also upload emails of contacts into Find Email to verify them. But if Find Email can't verify email, we'll put that also through a waterfall of 1 or 2 data providers as well. So here's a quick overview how we actually find the decision maker data round one, because we go from the easiest way to the leftovers, which is the toughest way, the most manual way to find the missing pieces and the missing data for our lists. So high level, we use the cheapest services and cheapest data providers to help us get the majority of the data, whether it be 60 or 70% of the contact data, such as Find the Email. Then we use Apollo for decision maker search as well. We can upload the CSV we pull from Clay to upload it into Apollo to see how many contacts we can get from there. Alternatively, we can just copy and paste domain URLs, website URLs of our companies. I think they can actually accept 10,000 entries and enrich those companies based off those emails with your contacts and saved profiles in Apollo. You can also use Clay to enrich your data. Clay is also now, again, a search engine. You can pull company data and find people. But again, we use multiple sources to create one holistic list and fill the gaps from different data providers. We also fill the data gaps with LinkedIn, and based off those 3 sources, Clay, LinkedIn, and Apollo, we can create one basic foundational list, which we can use for outreach. And then we get to step number 4. What if we can't find, contacts for those additional, 10, 20, 30% of people? Let's say in some of the difficult industries, such as, listed, let's say professional services companies out of the Caribbean or out of any other tax haven. These companies tend to have a very, closed data policies, if you will, right? So how do we actually find those? Now, what we do is for those companies where we have contacts missing, we actually task a Clay agent, create a prompt to go to their websites, go to specific pages which might have employee data or team data. We take a sample of 10 or 20 companies, go to that to create a prompt, given them various scenarios, and then we run the query through Clay. What happens then is that they're able to extract people's names, titles that were not able to find through Apollo or Clay or LinkedIn. And then if there are emails attached on those websites for these contacts, we'll find those as well. But if we have the people's names, first name, last name, and titles, we can then use those data points, and then plug them into the same tools that we use in Clay and Find Email to find the actual emails. Some of the additional data points that we can pull for our list, to build up relevance are, data from 10K reports, recent company news, product reviews, product pricing, funding history, website traffic metrics, tech stack. Depends on exactly what you're looking for in your outreach and your messaging for a specific ICP. Now, what we also want to find is, intent signals or some triggers, and we use additional tools such as Unify, Full Enrich, Triggerify, Common Room for some of our clients to get an understanding of what kind of angle can we come in at and how can we open the door in a more human way to get a conversation started with the decision makers. Last but not least, let's talk about finding phone numbers. The phone numbers are somewhat tricky to find at scale. We use a couple of providers. You can use Clay. They've got a nice flow going there through multiple data providers. It does cost quite a few credits, but it is worth it if you're also doing cold calling or warm calling for that matter. Or you can use something like Upsell, which is $249 a month. there's no limit of how many numbers you can extract. It pulls numbers from LinkedIn data, LinkedIn accounts. So you do need an enterprise or a higher level LinkedIn account to be able to pull phone numbers at scale. That's kind of the only caveat. So that's all I kind of wanted to go over. Let me know your thoughts below. You have a link to this resource below the video. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, you will have a pinned link to this video on YouTube as well. We can go ahead and find this workflow, read through this, and access this workflow here, right? How do we find 90% of decision makers in the TAM? How do we find 90% of TAM companies in the TAM? You can kind of follow through, right? So we also go through multiple rounds of cleaning lists, after multiple entries, scraping with Cleagent, finding numbers, finding data, manually filling the gaps sometimes. And you honestly, if you master this, you'll be able to find 90% plus of your TAM very easily. Let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next one.